Welcome back to Justice Under Review. We know you've been waiting, so without further ado, let's dive right into today's story. They called her the Iron Matriarch of Cook County, Judge Rebecca Caldwell. For years, her gavel didn't just end trials, it ended lives. She built a career handing out the harshest sentences to minority defendants, hiding her prejudice behind a mask of law and order. But one day, she made a fatal mistake. She looked at the man in the orange jumpsuit and saw only a statistic, a thug, a nobody. She had no idea the man standing before her wasn't a criminal at all. He was Special Agent Derek Washington, and he wasn't there to serve time. He was there to serve justice. This is the story of how a corrupt judge sentenced the very agent building the case to destroy her. The air conditioning in the Cook County courthouse always hummed with a low, menacing vibration, but it did little to cool the stifling atmosphere of Courtroom 4B. This was the domain of the Honorable Rebecca Caldwell. At 55, she was a striking figure, steel gray hair pulled into a severe bun, eyes like flint, and a reputation that made defense attorneys sweat. To the wealthy residents of Chicago's North Side, she was a hero. They whispered her name with reverence at the country club, praising her for cleaning up the streets and keeping those people out of their neighborhoods. But to the families on the South Side, especially in the heavily Black and Hispanic communities, her name was a curse. State of Illinois versus Derek Washington, the bailiff announced, voice bored. The courtroom was packed, the way it always was when Caldwell presided over a violent felony. Terrified relatives prayed for mercy, while the local press waited for her next scathing soundbite. Judge Caldwell didn't look up from her paperwork as the defendant was shuffled in. She adjusted her glasses, savoring the power. She owned this room. She owned Sheriff Wayne Reed, chewing gum in the front row. She owned the district attorney, a nervous man named Michael Hargrove, who owed his election to her endorsement. "Mr. Washington," she said at last, lifting her eyes. She saw a tall black man, broad-shouldered, wearing a county-issued orange jumpsuit that was slightly too small. His face was impassive, eyes dark and unreadable. To her, he looked like every other man she had sent away, faceless, nameless, guilty by default. "You are charged with aggravated assault on a police officer, resisting arrest, and possession of a controlled substance with intent to distribute," she recited, voice dripping with disdain. "How do you plead?" The public defender, a young, overworked man named Ryan Callahan, stood up. He looked exhausted. "Your Honor, my client pleads not guilty." Caldwell let out a short, sharp laugh. "Of course he does. They always do." She leaned forward, locking eyes with the defendant. "Mr. Washington, I see you're a drifter. No fixed address. No employment history in this state. Just passing through our city and decided to cause trouble." Derek remained silent. He knew his role, to play the defiant, quiet type that would irritate a narcissist like her. "I asked you a question, defendant," she snapped. "I was just driving through, Your Honor," Derek said, voice deep and calm. "Your sheriff pulled me over for a broken taillight. The rest, that didn't happen the way they said." Caldwell slammed her hand on the bench. "You will address me properly, and you will not cast aspersions on the integrity of Sheriff Reed's department in my courtroom." Bail denied. "We proceed to trial immediately. I won't have my docket clogged by transients." In the back row, a woman in a gray suit scribbled notes. She looked like a reporter, but her focus was locked entirely on the judge. Derek sat back down, expression stoic. Inside, his heart raced with adrenaline. Phase 1 complete. She had taken the bait. Months earlier, the FBI's Civil Rights Division had received a whistleblower complaint packed with documents. The source claimed Judge Caldwell and Sheriff Reed were running a sentences for cash kickback scheme with a private prison called Summit Correctional. The operation was brutally simple. Deputies targeted out-of-towners or vulnerable locals, mostly black men, planted evidence or provoked arrests, and Caldwell delivered swift convictions and maximum sentences to Summit. In return, the facility funneled money into a shell company registered in the Caymans under Caldwell's maiden name. They needed proof. They needed to watch her rig a trial from the inside. Derek Washington was the Bureau's best deep-cover operative. He had spent weeks building the persona of a wandering laborer. He drove a beat-up truck with a deliberately broken taillight straight into Sheriff Reed's patrol zone. The arrest had gone exactly as planned. The deputy screamed, "Gun!" when Derek reached for his license, dragged him out, and found a bag of methamphetamine that Derek had watched the deputy pull from his own pocket. Now the machinery of injustice was grinding forward. "The prosecution calls Deputy Miller," the district attorney announced. The deputy strutted to the stand and spun a harrowing, fictional tale of how Derek had attacked him, how he had feared for his life, how the drugs had been in plain sight. "He was aggressive, violent," the deputy lied, staring at the jury. The jury was mostly white, with 2 older black members who looked terrified. Caldwell had dismissed every young black potential juror for attitude problems. When Ryan tried to cross-examine, Caldwell shut him down at every turn. Dashcam footage corrupted, technical glitch, no bruises on the deputy. His sworn word was enough. She rolled her eyes during Derek's testimony and interrupted him mid-sentence. "Mr. Washington, stop lying to this court. It is insulting to my intelligence. You expect us to believe a decorated officer planted drugs on you? You simply fit the profile." "What profile is that, Your Honor?" Derek asked quietly. The room went dead silent. Caldwell's face turned crimson. "The profile of a criminal, a drain on society, someone who brings drugs and violence into my county. One more word and I will have you gagged." Derek stayed silent. He had exactly what he needed, her bias on the record. The trial wrapped up quickly. The jury, guided by Caldwell's heavily slanted instructions, returned a guilty verdict on all counts in under an hour. Sentencing came the next morning. Caldwell swept in energized, her favorite part of the job, playing God. "Mr. Washington," she began, voice carrying to the back of the silent room. "Justice under review. Subscribe now and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss our latest stories. You have been found guilty of heinous crimes against the peace and dignity of Cook County. You attacked a law enforcement officer. You brought poison into our community." She paused for effect, eyes sweeping the gallery. "In this county, we believe in consequences. I see no remorse in your eyes, only arrogance. Today, the cracks close." Derek stood slowly. "Do you have anything to say before I pass sentence?" "I just hope justice is truly served today, Your Honor." Caldwell scoffed. "Oh, it will be." She opened a file she had already decided on days earlier. "Derek Washington, I sentence you to 20 years in the state penitentiary. You will serve your time at Summit Correctional Facility. Furthermore, due to the violent nature of the assault on an officer, I designate you a high-risk offender. You will not be eligible for parole for 15 years. She raised the gavel. "May God have mercy on your soul, because this court has none." Bang. The bailiff moved to grab Derek's arm. "Don't touch me," Derek said. It wasn't a shout. It was a command spoken with absolute authority. The bailiff froze. Caldwell's eyes narrowed. "If you resist, Mr. Washington, I will add another 5 years for contempt. Sheriff, assist the bailiff." Sheriff Reed stood, eager, but Derek turned slightly and gave a single nod to the woman in the gray suit. "Now," he said. The woman rose. She no longer looked like a reporter. She pulled out a gold badge. "Federal agents, nobody move!" At that exact moment, the double doors exploded open. 12 FBI agents in tactical windbreakers flooded the courtroom, rifles ready. Chaos erupted. The gallery screamed. The district attorney dove under his table. Sheriff Reed froze as red laser dots danced across his chest. Judge Caldwell stood, face twisted in shock and outrage. "What is the meaning of this? This is a court of law. I am a judge." Derek turned to the bench. He no longer looked like a convict. He stood tall, posture military straight. "Uncuff me," he told the bailiff calmly. The man fumbled the keys with shaking hands. Once free, Derek reached into his jumpsuit and pulled out a small earpiece he had hidden the entire trial. He tossed it onto the defense table and walked straight to the bench. "You asked who I am," he said, voice ringing clear. "I am Special Agent in Charge Derek Washington, FBI Public Corruption Task Force." Caldwell gripped the bench, knuckles white. You're the defendant. I just sentenced you." "You sentenced a legend, Rebecca," Derek said coldly, using her first name like a blade. "You sentenced a ghost. The man you thought you were sending to Summit doesn't exist, but the crimes you committed to put him there, those are very real." "This is entrapment," she shrieked. "I will have your badge. I know senators. I know the governor." "We know," Derek replied. "We have them on wiretaps too. We've been listening for months. Every call to the warden at Summit, every kickback payment laundered through that Cayman shell company. We have the bank records, the emails, and now we have you on record denying due process, colluding with the prosecution, and conspiring with the sheriff to frame an innocent man." Sheriff Reed was slammed against the wall, cuffs clicking. Deputy Miller was already zip-tied on the floor. Derek stepped onto the bench, invading her sacred space. He pulled out a folded warrant. "Rebecca Caldwell, you are under arrest for racketeering, conspiracy to deprive rights under color of law, wire fraud, and judicial corruption." He leaned in close. "You like maximum sentences, Judge? The federal guidelines for what you've done mean you're looking at 30 years. You're going to die in a cage." Caldwell slumped into her chair, the iron matriarch shrinking before everyone's eyes. "Oh, and Judge," Derek added, "that prison you have stock in, Summit, we raided it this morning. It's being shut down. You won't be going there. We have a special spot waiting for you in federal custody. General population." 2 female agents stepped forward. "Stand up." They grabbed her arms without ceremony and hauled her out of the chair. Her robes tangled around her legs as they marched her down the steps. The gallery erupted, not in cheers, but in a low, rumbling murmur of pure vindication. The South Side families who had lived under her tyranny for years finally saw the scales tip. Ryan Callahan stood at the defense table, mouth open. Derek shook his hand. "You're a good lawyer, Ryan. You fought for a man you thought was guilty because you believed in the system. Keep doing that. We need people like you." The interrogation room at the Cook County Sheriff's Department smelled of stale coffee and fear. For years it had been Sheriff Reed's domain. Now the roles were reversed. Judge Rebecca Caldwell sat at the metal table, wrists cuffed to the ring. Stripped of her robes, she looked small and ordinary. She still thought she could bargain. The door opened. Derek walked in wearing a crisp suit, badge on his belt, carrying a single folder. He didn't sit. "I want my lawyer," she hissed, "and I want Michael Hargrove." Derek chuckled dryly. "Michael Hargrove is in the next room crying. He's telling my agents everything to cut a deal. Open the folder." She did. Bank statements from a Cayman account under her maiden name. Millions in referral fees from Summit. "We know about the $2,000 you got for every month you added to a sentence," Derek said quietly. "That's why you gave me 20 years, right? $40,000 payday for one morning's work." He clicked a remote. A hidden camera video played. Caldwell laughing with the CEO of Summit in a golf cart. "I've got a docket full of trash next week. I'll fill Block C up. Just make sure the transfer hits the island account by Friday." The video ended. Caldwell's face was ashen. "It's over, Rebecca. You sold human lives for luxury cars and vacations. You took fathers from their children so you could renovate your kitchen." She tried one last desperate play. "Wait, I can give you bigger fish. The governor, the state senator." Derek paused at the door. "We already have the senator. Sheriff Reed gave him up 10 minutes ago. You have nothing left to trade, Judge. You're at the bottom of the barrel." The door slammed shut, leaving the Iron Matriarch alone with her reflection. The arrest shattered Cook County. Satellite trucks from every major network clogged the streets. Federal agents swarmed the sheriff's department, boxing files and seizing hard drives. Deputies who had strutted the day before now sat stripped of badges, waiting to be questioned. Outside on the courthouse steps, Derek stood watching the chaos. Across the street in the square, Southside residents gathered, not with anger, but with quiet relief. They had come to see the witch truly gone. Ryan Callahan approached, still dazed. "Every case Caldwell handled in the last decade is under immediate review. A special task force is already set up. Summit Correctional is being audited. The warden was picked up trying to flee the country." Then the buses arrived, state corrections vehicles. But this time, they were bringing people home. Justice under review. Subscribe now and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss our latest stories. Men who had lost years of their lives stepped off, blinking in the sunlight. Families broke through the barricades, screaming names, collapsing into hugs. A young man named Jamal dropped his bag and fell to his knees in front of his grandmother, sobbing as she rocked him. Derek watched from the shadows, a lump in his throat. His supervisor from D.C. appeared beside him. "Good work, Washington." "It's not done," Derek said. "Vance and Reed were monsters, but they were symptoms. The disease is the profit. As long as prisons make money off bodies in beds, and judges have investments tied to incarceration rates, this will happen again." Years later, a special news report interrupted the evening broadcast in a federal prison common room. The headline read, "New Director of FBI Civil Rights Division sworn in." A man with gray at his temples stepped to the podium, still broad-shouldered, eyes fierce and kind. It was Derek Washington. "Justice," he said, voice strong, "is not a weapon we use to punish those we dislike. It is a shield to protect the vulnerable. When I stood in a courtroom in Cook County years ago, I saw what happens when the law loses its soul. I swore then that I would dedicate my life to making sure it never happens again." In the prison common room, an old woman in a wheelchair stared at the screen, oxygen tank beside her. It was Rebecca Caldwell, frail now, heart damaged. Everything she once owned seized under RICO. Her husband had divorced her. Her lake house, cars, and offshore millions were gone. She had $74 in her commissary account and nothing else. She watched the man she had tried to bury rise to the highest ranks of honor. A single tear slipped down her cheek before she quickly wiped it away. In prison, weakness was dangerous. But as she wheeled herself back to her cell, she finally understood. She was exactly where she belonged. And that is the incredible story of Judge Rebecca Caldwell and Special Agent Derek Washington. It's a chilling reminder that no one is above the law, not even the person holding the gavel. Caldwell thought she was a god in her courtroom, destroying lives for profit and prejudice. She thought she could crush a nobody drifter. She forgot the golden rule: be careful who you step on, because they might be the one building the trapdoor beneath your feet. Justice in Cook County wasn't swift, but it was absolute. Caldwell didn't just lose her freedom. She faced the very same cold system she had inflicted on so many others. A classic case of what goes around comes around, served with a side of federal prison time. What do you think about the ending? Did the punishment fit the crime? Do you think 30 years was enough for the lives she ruined? Or should it have been more? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story of undercover justice and massive karma hit you right in the soul, smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow and tells YouTube you want more stories like this. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss a new one. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, and I'll see you in the next dot. In the tense hush of a crowded courtroom, the gavel slammed down with merciless finality as Judge Rebecca Caldwell glared at the black man before her. Derek Washington stood accused of aggravated assault on a police officer, resisting arrest and drug possession. To Caldwell, he was just another thug to crush. She mocked his background, dismissed his defender's pleas, denied bail, and rushed the trial with blatant bias, handing him 20 years at a private prison where she secretly profited from everybody behind bars. "You bring poison into our community," she sneered, savoring her power. "This court has no mercy." But Derek Washington was no ordinary defendant. He was Special Agent in Charge Derek Washington of the FBI's Public Corruption Task Force, deep undercover in a meticulously planned operation to expose the judge's sentences for cash kickback scheme with the sheriff and a for-profit prison. Every insult, every rigged ruling, every display of raw prejudice had been captured on hidden recordings and wiretaps. When the moment came, Derek stood tall, shed the defeated posture, and declared with commanding clarity, "Your Honor, I am not the man you think I am. I am Special Agent in Charge Derek Washington, FBI Public Corruption Task Force." The courtroom froze. Caldwell's face drained of color as the man she had just sentenced revealed himself as the federal agent building the case to destroy her. Federal agents stormed in. Caldwell, the sheriff, and their accomplices were arrested on the spot for racketeering, conspiracy, wire fraud, and deprivation of rights under color of law. Her iron empire of hate and profit collapsed under the weight of the very justice she had twisted for years. This powerful story carries one of life's most profound and emotional lessons. Asterisk, asterisk. Never let prejudice or the thirst for power blind you to the worth of another human being. Because the person you mock, belittle, and try to destroy today may be the very one who holds the authority and courage to bring your entire world crashing down. Asterisk. Asterisk Judge Caldwell saw only skin color and assumed weakness. She never imagined the quiet man in the orange jumpsuit carried the badge and the moral strength to expose her decades of systemic cruelty. The tale reminds us that true justice is patient but relentless. It often arrives in plain clothes with quiet dignity, waiting for the perfect moment to rise. Life will sometimes place you before someone who judges you harshly because of how you look or where you come from. In those painful moments, remember Special Agent Derek Washington. Hold your head high, speak your truth with calm resolve, and trust that the universe has a way of balancing the scales with breathtaking precision. No one is truly above the law, and no one is truly beneath its protection. Respect is not a favor. It is the foundation of a just society. The tables can turn when we least expect it, and karma has a way of arriving wearing the very robe we thought made us untouchable. If this heartfelt story of hidden strength, systemic bias, and the quiet power of truth moved you deeply, if it reminded you never to judge too quickly or stay silent when dignity is attacked. Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever been dismissed or witnessed prejudice that later led to a powerful reckoning? Your story could give hope to someone feeling powerless right now. If you love emotional, inspiring life lessons wrapped in gripping tales of courage and accountability, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next powerful chapter. Let's build a community that values respect, fairness, and human dignity for every single person. Thank you for watching. Your support means everything. See you in the next inspiring story. Justice Under Review. Subscribe now and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss our latest stories.